And welcome to the council meeting this evening for September 10th. And it is a fall evening, although we have a great community announcement this evening as we move along the agenda. Just for council's information, that Rogers is having some technical difficulties and Janet is working on streaming and YouTube. So there will be taping. It's Rogers having the difficulties. Okay, I'll call council to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda. Deputy Mayor, you would have that motion?
I do. Thank you, Mayor Cooper. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Jeffrey. Be it resolved that the content of the council agenda and addendum for September 10, 2018 be adopted as presented.
Call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. We move on to declarations of pecuniary interest. Yes, Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Worship. Under the Town of Collingwood Code of Conduct, I will declare a benefit that was provided to me as a guest of the Fram Building Group at the Mayor's Golf Tournament. And the value of the entry fee to the foursome was $200.
And just for your information, that there is on the town website an accountability and transparency form that you would fill out and submit to the clerk's office.
Thank you.
And that's posted publicly. No further, then we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes from the meeting held August 27th. Councillor Fryer.
Thank you, Mayor Cooper. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Doherty that the minutes of the council meeting held August 27th, 2018 be adopted as presented.
Errors or omissions? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Business arising from the previous minutes. Okay, moving along then. That after. Community announcements, and it's indeed an honor for me to call up our own Don Wilcox. Presentation of Office of the Governor General, the Sovereign's Medal for volunteers to Don, and it's something that the Governor General is very busy with, and had asked that I present the medal to Don. So I do have some information, and I'll read that out. So this is quite an honor for me, and I know it is for Dawn as well. So first off, I'd like to recognize Dawn's wife is here, Diane, as well as George Zerny, a cohort of Dawn's, and as well George Daniels, who had both gentlemen had submitted, both Georges had submitted Dawn's name. So I'm just going to read out from the letter from Mr. Daniels. So, dear sirs, I am very pleased to nominate my friend Don Wilcox for Subject Award. I've known Don since the mid-1970s in Aurelia. At that time, he was the sports editor of the Packet, the Times, and was the marketing sales manager of OTACO, Auto Parts Manufacturer and Foundry. Don, aside from his reporting duties, was an unpaid volunteer for the Aurelia Terriers Senior A hockey team, and is also noted for a long-time sustaining commitment to the Royal Canadian Legion from his Aurelia days to Collingwood Branch 63. Don has made significant volunteer contributions. His career resume is enclosed, and it's quite lengthy, so I'm not going to go on to that one. And certainly it is signed by George Zerny, author and former newspaper publisher, and Lieutenant General, the honorary, Richard Bromer, who I don't believe Richard's here, And also, I would say that our town crier is here this evening also. So that pretty well sums it up. However, I do have some notes from the Governor General and what this is all about. So the Medal for Volunteers recognizes exceptional volunteer achievements of Canadians from across the country and celebrates a wide range of voluntary contributions. As an official honor created by the Crown, the Sovereign's Medal for Volunteers is part of the Canadian Honours System. The program has incorporated and replaced the Governor General's Caring Canadian Award, which was recreated in 1995 by then Governor General, the Right Honourable Romeo LeBlanc. So the Chancellor of Honours, part of the Office of the Secretary of the Governor General, administers this program. Oops. That's instructions on how to place the medal. And so we also received for you, Don, the Sovereign's Medal for Volunteers awarded to Donald Wilcox in recognition of your significant volunteer contributions, Governor General of Canada, Julie Payette, and I have met her. She's a fine woman, and I'm sure we would have all been pleased to have her here. However, that's we tried, yes. So congratulations on that, and let me take that home with you as well.
Mayor Cooper, if I could get you right up in the middle, so question.
I should be in there. No, not me.
we'll get to it. I should have practiced this time.
Back up a little. Thank you.
If you'd like to say a few words.
I asked the mayor for 2 minutes, I got it down to 1 minute and 45 seconds. I just like doing this type of speech because when you're thanking people, you're bound to forget somebody. And I hope that doesn't happen tonight. I do thank council and her worship for making the presentation on behalf of the Governor General. What a thrill this is for a kid from Woodbridge. My next word of thanks goes to George Daniels, who put the nomination together and did all the legwork. I was shocked when I was learning what he was doing, and I've known George for more than 50 years, and he's always been a go-getter. Then Comrade Roxbury, I'm branch president at the local legion. I thank him for keeping this old geezer around, keeping him working in the military museum and on his executive. Comrade Ken Douglas took me on the team and taught me it took more than the Navy, of which I'm a veteran, to win the wars. It took a team. Comrade Graham wrote a supportive letter for George's project. George Zerny, who has been a friend of mine, a co-worker, my boss, and now still a friend after 50 some odd years. George and I have been through it all. When it comes to newspapers, if it happened, we did it. So I really thank George for his supportive letter. The final letter writer, unfortunately, is not here tonight, Lieutenant General Richard Romer. He and I have been friends ever since we sat on the Collingwood Police Service Board together. I recently had the pleasure to be in the audience when he spoke to about 400 military people at Base Borden. Believe me, this man has not lost it. He had them eating out of his hand at 94 years of age. The final thanks goes to my family, my wife Diane, my daughter Lori, my son Jason, who once at a very young age ran for the mayor's position in this town. And to all my friends, thank you. I don't volunteer for the glory of it. I do it because I believe that's what the Lord put me on earth for. So to all of you, I say thank you. I would be proud to wear this medal that Collingwood gave to me. Thank you and God bless.
Don, thank you for everything you do in our community. It's very much appreciated on behalf of council and the residents of Collingwood. Keep up the good work, and I know that at one point there was no uniform representation from the Afghanistan war, and you were the one that took the lead on that one as well, and were able to get hold of some memorabilia and military attire from that.
It was this town that honored the military police, and that's the uniform we got, so thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for attending today, and what a proud grandchildren you are of your papa, I'm sure. So enjoy the rest of your evening and go and celebrate. We'll go around the table then. Hard to beat that one. Community announcements, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Cooper. Certainly it's a very tough act to follow, and congratulations to Don and his family. Over the last 2 weeks, I had the opportunity at two exciting events. The first was the OHL exhibition game at the Eddie Bush Arena. I think we probably had 1,200 people. It was a sold-out crowd, and we watched the Colts beat the Sudbury Wolves 4-3 in a great game. I'd like to thank the organizers and Howie Campbell of the Barrie Colts for making that a reality, and certainly the new scoreboard looked fantastic and had a great christening with that event. And secondly, I had a privilege with many around the council table last Friday to attend the opening of the Alwyn Gathering Place. It was a fantastic service, I thought, very fitting, and the Gathering Place is based on the teachings of renowned educator, artist, and poet Dr. Duke Redbird, who made an excellent presentation. The design links the 7 grandfather teachings to the 7 layers of the food forest, and the 7 grandfather teachings are an ancient Anishinaabe and Midwayan teaching on the ethics of proper behavior and conduct. So it was a great event for all. I think I would estimate there was between 600 and 800 people throughout the crowd. It was quite a spectacular day and a spectacular event. And also congratulations to Dean Culver, who was awarded an Eagle Feather, which is the top award recognition in the Anishinaabe tradition. So that was a great symbol, I think, of the event of reconciliation by having a member of our own council recognized or staff. So it was a great event. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Councillor Fryer.
Thank you, Mayor Cooper, and an excellent hockey game. I'll just mention, because I know this is near and dear to Dean's heart, there are advertising opportunities still available on the clock. Some of the advertising on it actually is older, just hasn't had a chance to be removed. So anybody interested can contact the Parks and Rec Department on that. I wanted to mention that once again, Ignora Agricultural Class has received national recognition. They were featured in a recent Globe and Mail article, and it was in conjunction with the recognition they were receiving from the Ontario Trillium Network for Advanced Manufacturing. And it's another example of Ignora bringing national and worldwide recognition to Collingwood for their high quality work and human resource successes. Also wanted to mention that currently the town is redeveloping its website. And there's an opportunity for the public to go on the current website and complete a survey if they'd like to give us input on some changes that we're hoping to do. And that's running until actually I just finished up yesterday. Now look at that, September 6th. So I guess if they have any input, they can always let Jeanette know. But we're underway with the redevelopment.
Councillor Fryer, I've been informed it's the 16th.
16th. Thank you very much.
So they can still find it.
Yeah, spell check didn't catch that. Yes, and then that was all I had then. Great, thank you.
Councillor Ecclestone.
Yeah, just a couple of things this evening, Mayor Cooper. Firstly, come downtown this weekend to see classic Airstream travel trailers. The Urban Air North event comes to Collingwood September 13th to 16th. Sparkling silver Airstreams will be parked along here Ontario Street for all to see and admire. Here Ontario Street will remain open to traffic, and for more details visit www.facebook.com/bigupdowntown. And secondly, the Collingwood Youth Centre released its fall lineup of 10 programs. Programs begin later in September will include the introduction of new programs like DJ Lessons, Youth Business, Youth Future, and Be the Change film series crew. Favorites like the No Judge Club, Kids Feeding Kids, and Girlfriends will return. Program details are at www.collingwoodyouthcentre.ca. Thank you.
Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor Cooper. Just two events for October 27th this year. The first is the Spirit of Collingwood tour for Barbara Whiterhouse through the Home Horizon organization. It's a really great fun night and a terrific cause. It's $125 per ticket with a partial tax receipt, and you can get tickets at www.homehorizon.ca, or I'm sure if you call the office they'll be pleased to sell you a ticket as well. And then also that will be the evening we celebrate the inductees for the Collingwood Sports Hall of Fame. So two good events for October 27th.
Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Worship. And in keeping with our theme so far tonight of recognition for military service, the Collingwood Downtown BIA is announcing that their Veterans Banner Program to commemorate the 100 years end of World War I has been launched. Normally the BIA recognize Remembrance Day with poppy flags. This year, our community's veterans will be honored in a very special way by creating banners with pictures of our servicemen and women to be hung alongside the poppy banners, and there's an illustration above. The Collingwood Downtown is assuming all production and installation costs. It is only up to members of the public. If they wish to submit a name of someone that they wish to be honored in this way, they can do so by picking up an application at Downtown Collingwood. And I would assume also at the Legion, because Branch 63 is partnering with this initiative. And the only other announcement I have is in regard to Art Crawl, which is coming up on September 22nd, just in 2 weeks. It's a self-guided free art walk around downtown Collingwood, featuring over 100 artists in 40 venues. And this year it will also feature the addition of the live and original music art crawl. So it should be a great event. It certainly was last year. Hopefully we'll get weather nearly as good as that. And anyone who wishes to find more information can get it at collingwoodartcrawl.com. Thank you, that's it.
Councillor Madigan.
I have nothing this evening, Mayor Cooper.
Okay, so this was mentioned about the Awen Centre, which is at Harbourview Park. And I would encourage everyone to have a visit there and learn about the Awen gathering place. And congratulations, Dean. I was speaking to residents of Collingwood, the Wabi family, who Métis, that First Nations, sorry, and they all they could say was wow with the eagle feathers. So they would know firsthand about how truly spectacular that was. So I know that there was a lot of pulling hair out and trying to get everything together, but it did come together most seamlessly. And to your team as well as others that were included in that, congratulations on a job well done. And to the United Steelworkers Union that really did a major cleanup, and I said we'll have to have them back again soon for that. So congratulations. Just for council, September 13th, and also for the public, Urban Air North, the Airstream trailers will be coming to Collingwood. The welcoming will be at 10 a.m. September 13th, Central Park Arena. And again, this is not a Town of Collingwood event. This is a private event that is being hosted in the Town of Collingwood. And also make sure you have your white on. I know there was the white dinner, but there's council lawn bowling coming up as well, September 13th. I understand that some members of council have responded, so if you haven't, please do, so that they can, the Lawn Bowling Club can organize the teams for that. CCI reunion, September 21st and 2nd, lots happening around our community. And I also have to give a shout out for the new customer service enhancements. And this is regarding to the building services for e-permits now. So you are now able to submit your building permit application electronically anytime from anywhere. No more rushing to the building services office between particular hours of operation, and it allows for paperless submissions. So the email contact is inspections@collingwood.ca. Okay, we'll move on to deputations, and we have one this evening from the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit Opioid Strategy, and I would like to invite Mia Brown to come forward, please, and welcome Mia.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share some details of our Simcoe Muskoka Opioid Strategy Report that was released in July of this year. So the Simcoe Muskoka Opioid Strategy is a multi-sector comprehensive strategy aimed at reducing the opioid harms in Simcoe Muskoka. And we appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to share some of the details of the work that's been done. So just to give you a bit of an overview of what I plan to discuss today is I'll give you a bit of a backgrounder of what our opioid crisis looks like in our region, with some local data that I can share, what our action plans look like, give you a bit of an understanding of how we started and what the next steps look like. So if we look at the background, so there's multi-sectors that are working together to address our opioid harms that we're noticing here in our region. Not unlike any other community, we have, municipalities working with the LINs and the social services and the hospitals and the mental health and addictions and education and corrections, primary care, First Nations, and fire. So many different sectors working together to address our concerns with the opioid crisis. So this is a statement that was made by someone with lived experience from the opioid crisis. And it's something that resonated within our report, in that many people feel like they're not being cared for, based on the fact that we are losing many people to overdoses on a regular basis in our community, and many people feel like it's not being treated the same as other health illnesses that we've experienced or epidemics that we've experienced. So, understanding the opioid crisis. So back in early 2018, our Simcoe Muskoka opioid strategy did a survey of people with lived experience of opioid misuse. So that was people that have either misused prescription or illicit opioids, as well as their family members that have been impacted by the crisis. And so in that survey, we asked many questions, open-ended questions. We interviewed approximately 89 people in a 2-week period, the majority of them being from Simcoe County, and about 80% of them were from Simcoe County, and about 10% were from the District of Muskoka. And then there were a few that were just outside of our area. Over half of the respondents had personally used opioids, which coming in at 55%. 29% had a close personal relationship with someone who had used opioids, and 10 identified with both. So in this survey, what came from it, the key problems that are mostly commonly identified by people that are experiencing this crisis, they looked at mental health and illness being 67% of the responses for the key problems. Past or current trauma, easy to access opioids, medical prescribing, knowing other people who use drugs, and the lack of treatment for addictions and pain. So those were the key problems that came from that survey that was done. So if you want to look at how we compare to Ontario, Simcoe Muskoka is the blue line. We've always been higher than the Ontario rate for emergency department visits. So this captures from 2003 to 2017. As you can see, we're still on the incline. This data breaks it down for our region. So if you compare us to Ontario's crude rate, Ontario's crude rate is 55.8 per 100,000 population. Simcoe Muskoka is 78. If you break it down even further to Muskoka District of Muskoka and Simcoe County's crude rate is 83.7 and Muskoka's is 38.4. So Simcoe County's crude rate is significantly higher than the Ontario average. We've broken it down even further within our county of Simcoe to see which of our town centers have the higher crude rates. Barrie comes in at 105.3 per 100,000 population, followed by Aurelia, Midland, with Collingwood sitting at 52.7 per 100,000. Now that's ER visits. So some of those numbers can be underrepresented because we know that because of our distribution of naloxone over the last 2 years specifically has probably impacted the amount of people that actually go to hospital and are captured in that data. So if we look at opioid deaths in Simcoe Muskoka, we've seen a 70% increase in opioid deaths from 2016 to 2017. So in 2017, we had 78 confirmed opioid-related deaths in our region. So what we did was, back in May of 2017, a large group under the leadership of the North Simcoe Muskoka Linn and the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit came together for a think tank that happened on May 25th with about 80 representatives from the local Linn, public health, Indigenous communities, healthcare services, social services, upper tier municipalities, education, corrections, fire, paramedics, and enforcement to participate in a discussion on how to address our local opioid crisis. From that think tank, we developed developed it's a very typical drug strategy in that there's a 4-pillar strategy that involves work under prevention, treatment, harm reduction, and enforcement. So we developed those 4 pillars, recognizing that emergency management had a role as well to play for timely information being shared in our communities. So we developed a 5th pillar called the emergency management pillar, recognizing that people with lived experience would be the foundation of the information that we'd be trying to access so that we could develop tools and resources and supports to meet the needs of people with lived experience. So they're listed as a foundational pillar, as well as the need for ongoing data collection and evaluation, so that we can stay on top of our current situation and share any alerts with the community in a timely manner. So this is a list of our steering committee members. So as I had mentioned, Dr. Lisa Simon from the Simcoe-Muskoka District Health Unit and Dr. Becky Van Ursel from the North Simcoe-Muskoka LIN chair and head this work. And then our membership is listed here. And so there's a wide range of enforcement, county, Simcoe County members, District of Muskoka membership, coming from health and social services as well. There is also an Indigenous opioid strategy that is currently being developed. It's funded by the North Simcoe-Muskoka LIN, and it's being carried out under the direction of the Aboriginal Health Circle. It's a strategy that will set out an action roadmap to address the issues of opioid misuse within Indigenous communities, as well as inform the mainstream Simcoe-Muskoka opioid strategy to seek opportunities where we can align together to work together. It's working parallel to what we're doing with SMOS. So we felt the need to mention that this is also being developed. So within our Simcoe-Muskoka opioid plan report that was released in July, this is a hard copy of what it looks like. We also have it available online on our website, preventod.ca. So in our work plan, we're looking at a 3-year work plan at this point. So some of the activities that are listed in this work plan are short-term, which means that the activities were being fully implemented as of 2018. Anything long-term is considered 2019 to 2020, and maintenance could be work that's going to happen for many years to come. So under the foundational pillar of lived experience, the findings from the survey that I had mentioned earlier that we completed is going to lead the way to the work that's being done in our different pillars. So the lived experience perspective has been incorporated in all of our action plans. Data and evaluation. So early warning system management has been created so that when there is a series of overdoses that are happening or clusters of overdoses in one community or more, it's a surveillance system that'll alert our communities, and so that we can inform the public and provide education as needed. Under the prevention pillar, they're looking at strategies that are upstream and recognize that there's a pivotal role for social determinants of health. So risk factors that can contribute to addiction, and many of them were mentioned earlier. So work that's being done within the mental health and addictions services, our school boards, to encourage well-being for families and making sure that our children and families have supports in place to reduce those risks that can come in early childhood for people that will set those foundations for addiction and mental health issues later on in life. And this is just some of the goals that are outlined in that prevention work plan. So the prevention pillar work plan is looking to do anti-stigma initiatives and campaigns, raising awareness within a variety of audiences and settings, working again, like I mentioned, with the school boards and with community mental health and addictions programming. The treatment pillar is looking at interventions that include education for primary care providers, the creation of referral pathways to reduce clients from falling through the cracks, and increased access to community-based opioid addiction treatment. So their goals were to create educational resources for our local physicians and primary care providers, to increase community counseling resources, which has happened. So the CMHA has received additional funding through the LIN to increase counseling services across the region. We now have 3 rapid access addiction medicine clinics, one in Barrie, one in Orillia, and one opening soon in Midland. And those are all part of that work being done in the treatment pillar. Under harm reduction, I had mentioned naloxone distribution, so we've increased access to naloxone in our communities by providing them to people that use opioids as well as their friends and family members in different avenues, like through the public health units, through pharmacies. We also, last year in the fall, we trained many of our community partners like shelters and outreach organizations, AIDS organizations, and community health centers so that they can distribute naloxone to their clients as well. And then in January of this year, they opened up the access to police and fire. So police and fire will in our region all have access to naloxone now, so that their officers and first responders can administer naloxone if they respond to an overdose situation. Also included in the harm reduction work for the pillar is the continued distribution of the needle and smoking kits supplies for people that use, with the disposal options also made available to them. So this is to reduce risk of HIV and Hep C, and it's also an opportunity to engage with people who use substances to encourage them to access the services. So that's a bit of a picture of what we're doing. We did put an application in for an overdose prevention site in Barrie. It was before the writ dropped with the government changeover, and so at this point it's no longer being reviewed, is our understanding. It sounds as though the Minister of Health and the Premier are planning to have a decision made at the end of September around how they're going to move forward with the provincial overdose prevention sites and supervised consumption sites. Under the enforcement pillar, we have local police forces that are now working collaboratively together to increase the sharing of timely intelligence and to take enforcement action on those individuals that are manufacturing and distributing opioids in the area. They're also working with the local Crown attorneys to represent Public Prosecution Services Canada to aggressively pursue those that are convicted of trafficking fentanyl. So our enforcement pillar has membership from many of the local OPP detachments in our region, our Barrie Police, Simcoe Police, and some of our First Nations police forces as well. The emergency management pillar is because we lacked what came from this strategy when we had our think tank in May, is that we really lacked a coordinated opioids specific emergency management plan. So a plan was developed to initiate early warning surveillance systems for our region, and that's where the health unit and the county and the district and the North Simcoe Muskoka Lynn, Rama First Nation, and the Simcoe County Fire Chiefs are all working together to make sure that that we have an emergency response in place so we can quickly respond when we find that there's clusters of overdoses happening. So as far as next steps, so the county was so kind to develop this website to host our SMOS information. So all of our pillar information, all of our community tools and resources are listed on this www.preventod.ca. It also gives a tool for people that are using to report bad drugs. So there is a section on that site that's anonymous, and people can go onto this site and anonymously report if they've seen any drugs that are causing any issues in our community. And that gets shared within our SMA steering committee regularly. So as a role for council, basically what we're encouraging is that you support staff engagement in the work of our SMOS and our local collaborations around addressing opioid harms, and to locally champion and facilitate those aspects of the action plan that relate to municipal jurisdiction, including within the harm reduction, the prevention, enforcement, and emergency management pillars. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brown. Very informative, and I'll take questions that you can maybe help with answers. Anyone have any questions, comments? Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Cooper, through you to me. Thank you very much for that. That's the third time I've heard that presentation, and I still find it shocking. I sit on the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit, so I've had Dr. Simons present to us a number of times as this was put together, and then you did it at the county. And a question that's been on my mind on the whole harm reduction issue and the enforcement, the synergy there, as we looked at the cannabis evolution, we developed a diversion program so that the users that were caught for that, not the pushers, but the users were taken out of the legal system in hopes that we could rehabilitate them or assist.
Right.
And I know in Portugal, they have decriminalized some of these drugs and opioids to try to do that thing. And I'm wondering if there's been discussion in Ontario with the provincial police about trying to work ourselves to that place where we're not putting people in stress and they're already being stigmatized into the criminal justice system, which is not helping their situations at all. If there's a way that we can divert them and put them into a rehab program to address their specific needs.
I am aware of in Barrie, I think there's a drug treatment court that's being piloted or should be piloted soon. That's the only one I'm aware of. That doesn't mean that there aren't any other in our region, but it's the only one I'm familiar with. We, as far as decriminalization, our Board of Health from the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit actually did endorse the recommendations of the Canadian Public Agency of Canada. They put out a position statement and recommendations for decriminalization of personal possession of drugs. And so at this point, politically, I don't know that we are planning to move forward at this point with our decrim advocacy, other than our board has endorsed that, the position statement. But it's hard to say, because within our strategy, the decriminalization of personal possession of drugs is not listed in our SMOS report, because enforcement, for one, would not be able to put themselves behind that at this point.
It just seemed to me, as a follow-up, with the success of what they were doing in Portugal to really address the root causes, it seems like something we should be giving some consideration.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense, absolutely. Yeah, so, and that's why part of our strategy is, is increasing access to treatment options, so our RAM clinics are positive, and hopefully we'll see more of those RAM clinics in our other communities eventually. It's a fun, if there's funding available, then certainly we'll be advocating for more RAM clinics, and that's a start.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor Cooper, through you to Mia. Mia, I had mentioned to you earlier that I work at the Will Council, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and the County of Simcoe is a member, and we afforded that membership through them. And I'm just wondering if there's some kind of link that you make. I mean, this is great frontline work, and we really do need to connect all orders of government to make a clear pathway to treatment. FCM recommendations have been taken up by the federal government, and one specifically was an emergency $150 million commitment to addiction treatment. So, if at any time, either through the County of Simcoe, or if I can help with advocacy in terms of accessing those kinds of funding, I'm happy to do that. But I'm assuming that you make those links, although I didn't see it up there. But I think this is great work.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Councillor Doherty? Oh, no,
Not
okay,
in agreement.
Councillor Fryer?
Thank you, Mayor Cooper. And last Wednesday at our committee, Mia, thank you very much for the presentation. Great information. It was the troubling message. It's hard to put that forward. And last Wednesday at our meeting, I wondered if we could maybe, through you, I could ask Chief Parr. He made some comments about recent statistics in regards to our own community with the work of the fire department in regards to the opioid prevention.
Chief, I know that you're certainly prepared in this emergency structure with the County of Simcoe.
Through you, your Mary, we started the program in June 25th of this year. So far, our response to these situations has been 52 now that we were first on scene and took primary care before paramedics arrived. Plus there's numerous other ones, so it is in our community. Kathy Clark from the county supports the emergency management side of this and working hard. And I believe we have some kind of part of this for one of our exercise coming up too. So they're very proactive and I think it's working. Our role isn't, it was great that we got approved to have naloxone on our trucks. We've used it once, but with the protocol we're under, we're having really good success using Dr. Feldman's protocol to treat the overdoses. So it's working. And I really like the strategy also that was presented by the health unit. So.
Just as a follow-up, and your comment in regards to council's role and its support role, and I know our council has supported our first responders and empowered them to do the actions that we think are necessary, and hopefully we can, as Councillor Jeffrey said, all work together to help stem this tide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brown, for the presentation and for raising awareness of how important and how serious an issue this is, especially in Simcoe County. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Next, we have the consent agenda. Who would have that? Consent agenda.
I may have that, Mayor Cooper.
Councillor Ecclestone.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Doherty. Be it resolved that the general consent agenda, having been given due consideration by council, be received. 7.1, proclamation of September 22nd to 30th as National Coaches Week. 7.2, NBCA Board Meeting Highlights, August 24, 2018. And 7.3, County of Simcoe accepting nominations for the 2018 Newcomer Recognition Awards, deadline September 21.
I'll call the vote on all three. All those in favor? That is carried. Any to be pulled? Deputy Mayor.
Yes, 7.1.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. This is the proclamation recognizing this week as National Coaches Week. And certainly I want to give a shout out to all our coaches in Collingwood, having been a coach and athlete myself and coached my kids and watched the great action that goes on in the soccer fields, swimming pools and hockey rinks and all other areas. I just wanted to recognize our coaches in our community who donate significant time to helping our kids learn life skills and cooperation, and it's wonderful to see them get this recognition because I don't think they get enough.
Reports and minutes of other committees and boards. We have none. Corporate and Community Services Standing Committee for September 5th, 2018. Councillor Doherty.
We do have reports of other committees and boards from the Community and Corporate Services.
Yeah, so I'm speaking to Corporate and Community Services. I originally in number 8 is outside of, but it's in the procedure bylaw for the agenda. So that's why I raised that point if there are none, but under Corporate and Community Services Standing Committee, certainly there are the 3 there under number 9. So
thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Jeffrey. Be it resolved that the following board and committee minutes be received and any recommendations therein be approved. The Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes of July 25th, Collingwood Spring Downtown BIA Board of Management minutes from July 12th and August 9th, and the Trails Advisory Committee minutes from July 12th.
Council, questions on any of these items? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. And next we have staff reports under 9.2. First is the 2018-17 Joint Compliance Audit Committee staff report. Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Egglestone. Deputy Mayor Saunderson. Be it resolved that Council receives staff report C 2018-17 regarding the Joint Audit Compliance Committee requirement of the Municipal Elections Act, and enact and pass the necessary bylaw to establish a committee, including the terms of reference, as well as authorize the appointments to the committee effective 2018 to 2022 council term.
And Councillor, would you have those names or the name for the municipality?
Yes, I have them attached to the bylaw. I can give them to you now if you like.
Yes, please.
Okay, so the following persons have been appointed as members of the Joint Compliance Audit: Jesse Crichton, Gita Koopmans, Ruben Rosen, Edward Ted Southorn, and Peter Walpole.
Thank you. Questions, comments, council? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. And next we have the bylaw 2018-069. Councillor Doherty.
Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Saunderson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2018-069, being a bylaw to establish and appoint a joint compliance audit committee, be enacted and passed this 10th day of September 2018.
Call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. And next is PRC 2018-12, Accessible Change Room. Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Jeffrey. Be it resolved that staff report PRC 2018-12, titled Accessible Change Room, be received for information.
Questions, comments to this item? Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Worship. I will just make the comment that this is turned out to be kind of a good news story because we were initially turned down for a grant, and then the suggestion was made that we could in fact accommodate or undertake the work that needed to be done within our existing change rooms, not to create a new change room at a significant savings. The estimated cost was some $120,000, and the work that we now see that we can do to give the benefit will be just about $20,000.
Very good point. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Cooper, through you, Dean. Just reading the report, as I understand it, the facility meets the AODA requirements, but appears to be not wheelchair compatible. I thought the AODA requirements were that it be wheelchair compatible. If you can just clarify that for me.
Certainly. Excuse me, through your worship. The building is AODA compliant. However, this addresses needs that exceed the AODA minimum standard. So essentially it's addressing the needs of the community. The AODA standard is being achieved in the building though.
Okay, and my understanding is we had wheelchair access because in the warm pool that we put in there was a lift to be put in for wheelchairs. Is that right?
Mr. Culver.
Yeah, through your worship. So what this is actually doing is installing a device known as a Hoyer, which is exceeds the minimum AODA standard for a recreation facility, but will allow a paraplegic person to be hoisted from their chair to a change table, to the toilet, to the shower within a private space. It also gives enough room in that space to handle this kind of activity, which is not available in the other rooms.
Okay, good, thank you.
Now, on that note, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. And next we have staff report PRC 2018-14, artifact collecting. Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Collecting moratorium.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Welcome. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Ecclestone. Be it resolved that staff report PRC 2018-14 titled Temporary Moratorium of Artifact Collecting be received for information.
Would you like to further expand on that one, Councillor Doherty?
Thank you, Worship. The museum right now has a abundance of artifacts that have been received recently, and there is quite a backlog on the museum to process all of these artifacts. So staff are recommending that we introduce a short moratorium until they can get caught up on the processing of these artifacts. And then also, as part of our discussion at Corporate and Community Services Standing Committee, was the idea that we would ask Susan to come in from the museum and perhaps do a public deputation to explain how the museum works, how artifacts are handled and stored, and there was general agreement among the committee that that might be a good idea.
Questions? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. And moving on to PRC 2018-15, the staff report regarding acknowledgement of traditional lands. Councillor Doherty.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Jeffrey. Be it resolved that Council receives staff report PRC 2018-15 and Council formally adopt the recommended wording for acknowledgement of traditional lands as identified in this report, and that every new council be provided an orientation on the Indigenous presence in our community, the traditions and history of the First Peoples, and the current challenges facing First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples in Canadian communities.
Councillor Doherty. Pretty well explains it all.
That very well covers it.
And this was actually, I had the opportunity and honor to speak to the acknowledgement of traditional lands as we celebrated the Audouin Centre at Harborview Park. Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor Cooper. Just a comment really through you to our Director, Dean Culver. I'm very appreciative of the very inclusive and thoughtful and the amount of research that he put into finding this end result. I think it's terrific, and I'm really appreciative of it, and I really do appreciate the amount of work he went to.
Mr. Culver.
Through your worship, I appreciate the sentiment. I really want to actually credit the Wawasegan Group and Glenn Trivet for supplying the research and consultation that led to the words. They didn't come from me. They came from people we were consulting with, so I wanted to make sure that was clear.
Thank you. Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Worship. Perhaps I will add what the words are. Today we acknowledge that this event is taking place on the traditional territory of the Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. We are thankful to share in the special spirit of this place, rich in the energy of Mother Earth, our ancestors, and the love of all creation.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffrey. We're in council.
I know. One more question just came up as a result of Councillor Doherty's comments so will we begin stating those words at the beginning of our council meeting?
I believe that would be something that staff will put forward on agendas coming forward. Councillor Fryer.
Could I ask for a recorded vote on this?
Absolutely. Ms. Elmas.
A recorded vote has been requested. All those in favor, please rise. Carried unanimous, you may be seated.
Next, we have PRC 2018 OPHA, Community Development Project. Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Ecclestone. Be it resolved that staff report PRC 2018-16 be received and that council authorize participation in the Ontario Public Health Association Community Development Project, Keeping Kids Health Through Collective Impact.
Thank you, and this as well came to committee. Questions, comments, council? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'm not on that committee, so just a question through you to Dean. Dean, is this a continuation then, essentially, of the Healthy Kids Initiative?
Mr. Culver.
Excuse me, through you, your worship. In a manner of speaking, yes. I mean, it doesn't address our local participation in the longer term. That's something that council will deliberate in the next budget. But having said that, what this does is it kind of enhances and moves forward that idea of collective impact across the province. So it's essentially generating a province-wide network, and they're seeking funding, so they're looking for councils to sign on, as it were. And then from there, they'll seek funding to develop the network, and then hopefully we will see sort of a continuation of a form of the Healthy Kids Community Challenge across the province.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. On that, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. And next is the Standing Committee Report, CorpCom 2018-07 Standing Committee Report. Councillor Doherty.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Fryer. Be it resolved that council receive Corporate and Community Services Standing Committee Report CC 2018-07 from its meeting held September 5th, 2018.
Councillor Doherty, anything further?
Thank you, Worship. I think we've had a pretty fulsome discussion of what was discussed at that meeting. However, there was some reference to complaints or notes from the public in regard to garbage pickup within the downtown Collingwood BIA district, and that is a item that is continuing to be looked at between the BIA, the town, and the county.
Questions, council? I think we've covered everything off. I'll call the vote then. All those in favor? And that is carried. No staff reports or motions that I'm aware of. Okay, bylaws, none. Notices of motion. County report. Deputy Mayor.
I think I gave one last session, so I'll defer it to the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay. I think that just in reading the county committee, the whole agenda, that tomorrow consideration is being given two options with the resignation of the mayor of Penetanguishene. So there is now an appointment or a seat vacant at the county, so there'll be a decision made on that one. A lot of the municipalities did not have their municipal appointment. We were one that did, and not a lot of them had, and Penetanguishene was one of those. So they have a meeting day after, and so we'll see what the discussion falls out from that. So that'll be something to report back. Old or deferred business. Other business. Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor Cooper, through to the clerk. I had someone present to me what they perceive as an increasing problem of unleashed dogs at the parks and on the trails, and they really questioned our ability to enforce that. So I was wondering if the clerk could summarize for me the things that we do in terms of enforcing. The other question that was brought up to me is, do people really understand the definition of a dog at large? which their understanding is that a dog off leash is a dog at large. So I'm just wondering if the clerk could give us some information for the community to understand better.
Ms. Ellis?
Certainly, through your worship to members of council and the public, a dog deemed to be at large is a dog that is either on public or private property, but is not on the premises of the owner that owns the dog. So that means if the dog is not under the care and control of the person that is walking the dog or playing with the dog off their own private property, they have to be on a leash. So if they're not on a leash, that is not under control. So they can be 2 feet beside you, 4 feet beside you, but that is not considered to be in control. I can confirm that our summer student that we bring in for enforcement during the spring and summer does do patrols. Sometimes they come in early, sometimes they stay later in the evening during the week to catch individuals that are out and about with their dogs on the trail system or in the parks. As well as we enforce on Saturday. So if anybody does have any specific areas that they do have concerns on, because we do bike patrols of the trails and regular patrols within, obviously, our vehicles and on feet within the various parks and whatnot, but you're welcome to contact the town. You can register a concerned area on our website, so you're welcome to do that as well. Or come to the town hall and have a conversation, but yes, we do regular patrols. And you should be careful because the fine is, I believe it's $240.
And our parks are not, neighborhood parks are not dog parks. Right. Councillor Fryer.
Just a comment on that matter. The other thing is that they're at risk. We continue to ask the public to keep us aware of any sightings of coyotes, and a dog on a leash is at risk. So our people need to keep that in mind.
Other business. In camera, who would have the motion to proceed in camera?
I have that, Mayor Cooper.
Councillor Jeffrey.
Moved by me and seconded by Councillor Doherty, be it resolved that this council proceeds in camera in order to address a matter pertaining to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including town or local board employees, regarding item A, the receiving advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose regarding items B and C. The items for discussion are A, committee applications, B, water billing error, and C, which was added by addendum, hydro sale legal update.
I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. And we will have a rise and report. As was noted, there is a Collingwood Heritage Committee consideration of committee members or board members there. So we'll be looking at that, and there will be a rise and report on that one, and confirmatory bylaw. For those of you watching at home, thank you very much for viewing in, and enjoy the rest of your evening.